What's good, guys? It's Yoshiken. 2021, baby. It's time for me to fanboy about my man's young Subaru. Nah, man. But I see way too many people dissing my boy. And I'm gonna talk about why Subaru is one of the best protagonists in anime. So buckle up.
Hey you, wanna be a cool guy like me? All you gotta do is like this video and subscribe. It's free, bro. Watch the whole thing as well. You won't regret it. Trust me.
Also, if it ain't obvious, spoilers from season 1 and 2. Natsuki Subaru. He's as normal looking as he can get. He wasn't born with main character syndrome. At first glance, he's the typical shouting otaku with the tracksuit and yada yada isekai MC. You know what I'm saying. He doesn't have any unique features, but instead of being one of those introverted isekai MCs, Subaru from the get-go lets us know that he's a pretty cheerful guy. He does a lot of dumb shit, and it's pretty clear that he cares about what other people think of him, at least in the beginning. Subaru's main colors are black and orange, and these colors couldn't fit him more. We can see that in his tracksuit, the color orange is more of an accent than a main color. Orange could represent enthusiasm, encouragement, determination, and subtly, pride, all of which are traits that he has. This could be shown in his eyes as well, even though they're more brownish color. The other color, on the other hand, which dominates him more, can represent mystery, fear, aggression, taintedness, and obviously, death. I know colors might seem dumb as f, but it can go a long way if it's done intentionally. Another thing that might be noticed is how his tracksuit is basically a part of him. This dumb little fad could represent his persistence and also loyalty in a way. R.I.P. Rem. Also, quick fact about the colors. Petra has the same color scheme as Subaru, and the type of dragon that she is known to be prideful. Think that's all the tiny details? In the beginning, Subaru's a very selfish person. All he did was because it was what he wanted. He was a clown, doing dumbass poses and saying some dumb shit. He was trying to be a nonchalant person despite what he was going through. This version of him was most evident in the mansion arc. It's also interesting that the only magic that he possesses is shadow magic and can only do Shama. It really fits his tainted side really well because we can see that he will do certain wicked things in order to win sometimes. An example of this is how he threw dirt at Julius when they were fighting, as well as Otto, which is extremely disrespectful. And what is Shamak? Basically a huge cloud of black dirt. The last thing I want to talk about his design is his eyes, which is mentioned over and over again that they seem like villain eyes. In many ways, our boy could be referred to a villain, even though we see his perspective on why he does these things. As the anime progresses, Subaru slowly changes his body language as he develops his relationship with our other characters, and we see how he matures because of it. Best Girl Wars! Okay, but seriously, ReZero is an anime that does relationships extraordinarily well, all because of the fact that we can see different sides of each character thanks to Return by Death. We can see how Rem was literally the enemy to being one of the most popular female characters in anime. The relationship between Rem and Subaru is easily one of, if not the best of this anime. And it all began with Rem being a crazy bitch. She was dislikable to the point where Ram was a much better character to our boy here. This especially hits hard if you rewatch ReZero. Seeing Rem the way she was is almost unthinkable to how she is now in the anime. R.I.P. But it was with reason. Rem did the thing she did because of suspicion and obviously the smell. Anyways, in the episode From Zero, Rem becomes something to Subaru that completely changes him. She becomes the reason for his determination and persistence to never give up.
一人で歩くのが大変ならレムが支えます。荷物を分け合ってお互いに支え合いながら歩こう。
The episode is considered the first episode of ReZero by many, due to Subaru getting a major change in his character. This is also evident in the second Sanctuary trial, the one that deals with the present. The Witch of Lust appeared before him as Rem, and a bit later on, the real Rem made him remember why he was doing the things he was doing. This relationship between them is such a pillar to his character, makes me salty as fuck that he chose Emilia, man. Subaru's relationship with Emilia is an interesting one. Some might say that he's a super simp, which, let's be honest, he kinda is. But Emilia is a very interesting character to Subaru. Not only is she reminiscent of Satala, the person giving him the power he has, but she's an immensely important character in the world of ReZero. In Subaru's room, we can see how he had a lot of figurines of girls with white hair. In other words, he got a type. And it just so happens that the girl he encounters when he first got isekai, besides Felt, was our white-haired girl, Emilia. As we know, this wasn't a coincidence. Also, man. What I'm trying to get to is Emilia's relationship with Subaru could be symbolic to the relationship he has with Return by Death. And that leads me to Satala's relationship with Subaru. Recently, in Season 2, we finally got to see Satala and what she quote-unquote thinks about Subaru. All the suspicions that we have with Satala and Emilia makes it even more evident when they both share the same voice actor. We see Satala in this black and yellow dress without showing her face to Subaru. Later on, we saw how Satala wanted Subaru to take care of himself more, to love himself more. Kind of ironic, right? The person who gave him a power that depends on his death is telling him this all of all people. Subaru has been relying on Return by Death and killing himself willfully in order to achieve the ending that he wants. But Satala wants him to realize that he needs to sacrifice in order to save the ones he really cares about. This doesn't faze Subaru, as we saw that he'll try to reach the ending he wants. Later on, I'll dive into this a bit more. If I could describe Subaru's character from a writing perspective, it would be genuine. Sure, he's not the coolest in the world, and not the flashiest looking character of the bunch, but that's exactly what makes him such a good MC. He has flaws, a lot of them, and which to a point make him a bad person. Not all characters should be perfect or flawless, and Subaru is an amazing example of this. As we all know, Subaru cries like a bitch. And be honest, man, if any of us were in his shoes, we would cry a lot as well. Many like to use this trait of his to bring his character down, as it makes him annoying. But in reality, it's because he's annoying that makes him realistic. We could see how much Subaru suffered. We are able to understand why he feels the way he feels, but the others can't. Isolation is something that Subaru has to deal with every damn second in this new world, as he literally needs to keep everything to himself. We see how this affects him, how it shapes him, and how it destroys him. Being unable to tell something so important to someone is something a lot of people should understand. And if it's something that affects you to the point where you literally die, then that shit should make you go crazy, man. And we saw how much of a burden was lifted once he was able to tell Echidna that he had this power. And even if she didn't have the purest intentions, it still helped Subaru immensely. Subaru has been broken and revived time and time again. As when he was in the mansion, to when he was battling Beetlejuice and the White Whale. Something that is fucking incredibly done is how in the loop where Subaru was crazy and mentally broken, Beetlejuice points out how, why are you faking your madness? A real madman would not care about how he looks or what he does. We can see traces of this in this loop, how Subaru is willingly trying to make himself believe that he's giving up, that he's mentally destroyed. But all of that immediately disappears once he sees what Beetlejuice does to Rem. As I mentioned before, Rem is something extremely precious to Subaru and to all of us. Maybe almost more than what Emilia is to him. And this Rem's death, right before From Zero, slapped him back to reality, to which he became furious. It's obvious that Subaru's character was all over the place in these moments, as his almost bipolar-like emotions always took control of his actions. Before I get into From Zero though, I want to dive in more into Emilia and the promise Subaru broke. As I mentioned before, Subaru is an extremely selfish person, as we can see over and over again with the actions he does, especially in the beginning. We could see how he somewhat saw Emilia as this doll and didn't consider her feelings that much. Without knowing how damn important promises are to spirit users, he went on and acted on impulse to go to the royal selection instead of staying in the mansion like Emilia wanted him to. He does a lot of dumb shit and beefed with one OP as knight and completely shattered Emilia's heart by doing all of this. Not only was he immature on everything he did here, but he went out of his way to do all of this on top of breaking Emilia's promise. Thankfully, he wasn't able to kill himself to just reset everything and be a good boy this time.
自分のためでしょ。
だよ、俺のためになんかじゃなくて。
He had to sit his ass down and learn from his mistakes. Learn that he is a bad and immature person and that this world is to be taken a lot more serious than he was expecting. It's incredible how the anime portrays this aspect of his character. It makes us, even the viewers, feel disgusted and disappointed in him. But at the same time, when he does do something amazing, we feel all the more triumphant with him. His character development. Easily one of the biggest in fiction. And personally, the best. I mentioned a few things that changed his personality a bit, but it wasn't something that was so impactful that it would change his whole way of thinking towards the things he does. This leads me to my second favorite episode of the series, From Zero. On an episode full of dialogue, it's incredible how so much was said, so much was changed, and so much was impacted on us viewers. We see how Subaru was fed up with everything. He had given up on trying to save Emilia at this point, and he wanted to escape with Rem and live a normal life far, far away. It's incredible how with Rem being in love with Subaru, she didn't let those emotions get the better of her, because she knew that Subaru wouldn't be happy with abandoning everyone. Subaru kept beating himself down, finally realizing that he was a shitty person and what he was saying was all true, but he failed to realize that there was a person that looked at him completely differently. We could see how much he hated himself.
誰も俺を信じちゃいない。俺は俺が大嫌いだ。
He truly was disgusted with the person he was, and it all came to him and hit like a truck. But Rem saw him as her hero, the person who saved her from despair, the person who became her ray of light in the darkness. Subaru was Rem's hope. In the episode, these emotions were done beautifully with the visuals. And even though Rem got turned down, Subaru came to a realization that even if he might see himself as a crappy person, as an incomplete, useless, and immature kid, there are people that despite all of these things, he reached their heart and given them happiness. This was the moment Rem became the reason for his tenacity, why he fights so much to save the people he loves. Rem was able to pull Subaru off the dark despair that he was in, just like Subaru did to Rem. Another thing about this episode is that there are a lot of white doves when Rem tells Subaru that he is her hero. This can represent new beginnings, and we can see that there are a lot of doves that surround Rem and Subaru. Man, this episode just keeps blowing me away to this day with how amazing it is. Knowing all this, the scene in the first episode of Season 2 hits even harder when we see Subaru lose Rem. It's like taking his reason for fighting away.
強いってお前は言ってくれたけど、お前がいてくれなきゃ そうやって強がる俺ってやつも見つからねえみてえだよ、レム。
But he's become a much more different man after the confrontation with Rem. And I thought his development was not going to get more extreme anymore. Man, was I f***ing wrong. Parent and Child is easily my favorite episode of the series. And easily one of my favorite episodes of all time. As I talked about my season 2 part 1 video, an isekai finally gives backstory on the MC's original world. But that's completely besides the point. In this episode, we get so much insight on Subaru's character and how he was in the past and what his mentality was in his original world. And obviously, his amazing parents. I related with Subaru on another level with this episode. It's almost unsettling how much I could understand him. We saw how he was when he was a kid. He mostly lived to meet other people's expectations, especially because of his dad. We saw how even if he tried to be a funny guy, he slowly began to become more and more isolated from the rest, to the point where we see him not wanting to go to school anymore. We saw how his father tried to comfort Subaru by telling him that school is not what everyone makes it seem like. Sitting with his father made him remember all the people that love him, the people he found, and the people that became his reason for moving forward. It's incredibly done when he comes to this realization. He doesn't make it obvious and just very subtly changes his whole posture and expression. It's a quick way of showing us how much he's changed with just a visualization of body language. We can see how, in contrast from Zero, instead of white doves, there are cherry blossoms. And Japan is where Subaru used to be from. And cherry blossoms symbolize new beginnings in Japan, since they usually bloom around spring, which is usually the time the students graduate. And unfortunately, with this comes regrets. Subaru starts regretting the time he was not able to spend with his parents. Although for a short period, this leads me to his mom. Subaru's mom just pierces you in the heart. She's so weirdo and just wants what's best for her child. When he starts mentioning all the things that Subaru did when he was younger, Subaru asks, how did she know all of that? In which Tushi responded with, because I'm your mother. Man, I cried like a bitch. Floods of memories came to Subaru at this time. And man, the very last moment he saw his mom was something that broke my heart. Subaru realized how much his parents loved him, and this made him understand that he needed to live for himself in order to make those around him happy. He told her, I'll become someone I won't hate. It's not about how it starts, it's about how it ends. And this right here gave Subaru the confidence that he desperately needed in order to tackle the issues he was handling. We finally see Subaru get the determination to become someone that he will not hate. It's such a moving scene. And as Echidna mentioned, what he saw was just manifestation of his parents through the memories he's had. But to this, he responds confidently that his parents would have said the same things, and gives thanks to Echidna. To finish this section for what we got for now, I want to talk about Subaru finally relying on others instead of doing it all himself. Oto, another fantastic character, was the slap in the face he needed in order to realize something that seemed so obvious. It's pretty crazy how Subaru was hinted with this from Zero. He changed that much because of someone, as well as how he defeated the white whale. And with parent and child, why wasn't he relying on others more to help with his burdens? Again, something that makes him believable and not perfect. We can see how much of a despair he was in after Roswell's reveal, and he looked like he was out of cards to play until Oto came to the picture. Oto was exactly what Subaru needed, someone who would support him unconditionally. Friendship becomes even more important to Subaru, and we see how Subaru was blinded with how much Odo trusts him.
And when does this scene happen? In the morning, yet again, symbolizing new beginnings.
You just have to love the symbolism in ReZero, man. We can clearly see the change when we see Subaru confront Roswaal for the second time, boldly claiming that he will reach the ending he wants, and even making fun of him, to the point where he even makes a bet with him. Unfortunately, in the anime, we haven't seen much of how this is played out. As of writing this, only the second episode of Part 2 is out.
But on my Part 2 video,
but we did get to see how much Oto was able to help Subaru. This episode was an absolutely amazing episode, by the way. But what we've seen so far is pretty self-explanatory. We'll probably see this with Beatrice as well, and I'm excited as to see how he uses this newfound mentality he has in the future. The last thing I want to mention is how much the theme of loving oneself is present in Subaru's character. As mentioned before, he used to hate himself, and even after his confrontation with his mother, Satala tells him to stop relying on resetting everything by killing himself and start loving himself more by not resorting to that method as much. It's something that makes a huge part of Subaru's character. And with that, that is all I am able to say about Subaru without writing a thesis.
if you liked the video, like I said in the beginning, give it a like and comment down below what you think about Subaru and what are your thoughts on Season 2 Part 2. It's been pretty crazy so far. ReZero is an anime that I can go on talking and talking for a long time. So I really tried to make the most important bits and pieces of this whole series that Subaru has and just explain them in a way that's not too tedious and long, you know? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. A little bit of life updates. Since it's been like a month, nothing. Well, besides obviously watching anime because your boy is a weeb. You guys know this shit. And yeah, there's like a million anime airing right now and I'm watching like 16, so I got some ideas. Well, like I said, procrastination, uni work, yada yada, boring stuff. You guys know the deal. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please stay safe out there and don't do dumb shit. Take care of yourselves. See you guys in the next one and stay cringy, guys.